So here we go. Here I sit. I just moved, and I'm in this new house. I have a lot of more space than I ever would have thought I had. So I made a library, and I was thinking about where to record this for Felipe. I figured this is a good spot. This is a good spot, my little library, because none of it would have happened without Felipe. You know, my relationship to Felipe. It's funny. I think a lot of you were his friend. First and foremost, I was not his friend. First and foremost, he was my mentor, and I think in that true sense of the word, I don't even know how to call that the true sense of the word. What does it even mean? But he had so intimately shaped my thinking and steered my thinking and participated in my thinking, despite not always really wanting to. In the introduction to my dissertation, I refer to Felipe as my reluctant mentor. Although that changed over time. You know, over time he became more sort of paternal, more just sort of telling me things. And I'm going to share a few stories here because they make me happy to think about, even though they devastate me to think about. So I didn't go right to grad school. I was living in San Francisco. Rhetoric department was the only department I applied to. They were doing what I was interested in, so-called postmodern philosophy or critical theory. But I was having a good year, and I didn't think I'd go back. I didn't think I'd go to grad school because I was living the real life. I was typing on a typewriter and drinking whiskey. And so my first semester there, I go. I'm very into Kierkegaard at the time, and I take the only Kierkegaard offered was a undergraduate class. So I take it as a graduate student. And at some point, the teacher says I have to take a test. I have to take an exam. I go up to her. I'm like, listen, I'm a graduate student. I don't take exams. I never even took exams as an undergrad. What's an exam? And she's like, no, everyone has to take an exam. And I storm into the rhetoric department office, and I'm thinking to myself, this is why I don't want to be in grad school. And I go to Maxine Fredrickson, a genius among geniuses, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I think I need to drop out. And she just looks at me with that calm. She goes, let me introduce you to Felipe. And so she does. And next thing I know, I'm in an independent study with Felipe on Kierkegaard. And he's like, yeah, when you're ready, write me a paper and give it to me. And that was my entree into the world of Felipe, this sort of benevolent force just allowing me to stay in the academy when I felt like I just really didn't fit. And that was true of my whole time there. And, if you look at my reports or whatever they're called, my transcripts, I think they read independent study, Gutterriez, independent study, Gutterriez, independent study, Gutterriez. Every semester, I would just choose a book and then I'd read it with Felipe. So here's a couple other sort of hilarious moments. So maybe it was the second or third year grad school, and I'd been shopping with my girlfriend that weekend, and I bought a button-down purple shirt. Right, it was a very extravagant choice for me, a purple shirt. But I'm like, I'm going to wear this shirt, and I take BART. I live in San Francisco. I take BART. I walk up to campus. I walk in the rhetoric department. At that point, we were on the bottom floor. And just as I walk in the doors, I haven't seen anyone. It's early in the morning. Philippe's walking down the hallway. He looks at me, and without skipping a bit, he goes, hey, what's up, Prince? Needless to say, I never wore that purple shirt again, though I wish I had it now so I could wear it. Another great story. I think I told this on the Facebook, but it really is worth repeating. I was just very animated, as if I'm not now, loud, rambunctious character. Felipe was always just so chill, just so chill. And yet, as the great Melanie Gwynn pointed out, he clearly enjoyed us characters. So anyway, I was teaching a composition writing class, and I was going over this concept of the performative, the way language performs itself. And so I wanted to show them pornography, right? To show pornography doesn't describe sex, it is sex. And I'd gone to shops in San Francisco and gotten really nitty-gritty porn, like black and white S&M. And I'm in the hallway, and I bump into Felipe, and he's like, so where are you going with all that? I'm like, oh, Felipe, I'm going to go teach these kids about, the performative and pornography and really push the limits on what it is, what the law is and what they think of as description versus action. And he goes, Daniel, life's too short. What are you thinking? And that, I wish I could do his face, man. I wish I could do that life's too short that he would always throw out. That was the first time I think I heard it. And all through my time, I really wrestled with that department in a lot of ways. Somehow I was always felt like I was in trouble. And then as a grad student, and then when I was teaching there adjunct, I felt like there was always a problem. I was always causing a problem for someone. I don't even know how. And Felipe would be like, Daniel, just stop being a weenie. Stop being a weenie, Daniel. Life's too short. But he wouldn't just say that. He always said it with such a great, that little smile at the side of his mouth always just brought me such enormous pleasure. But also just such a beautiful, resonant wisdom. Life's too short, Daniel. Stop being such a weenie. God, I think about that now. I think about that all the time. When I'm going to do something, I'm like, oh, I'm just being a weenie. Life's too short. It's not worth the hassle. So Felipe, yeah, I had him, I graded a Kierkegaard paper for me. Then the next semester, he was teaching the introduction to rhetorical theory, and I had him as my professor. And I didn't realize at the time it was his first semester teaching. And I turned in a paper, and I let him know that I'd already written, because I'd read a lot of the books we were reading before, and I'd written an undergraduate thesis, and I cut out a section of it and handed it in to him. One of the hilarious things about Felipe is you never knew where he was, if you were getting anything back. I'd hand things into him and then never see them again. Or in this particular case, I handed him probably about a 20-page paper. I don't get it back. About a year later, maybe more, he hands it back to me. And he's written comments as long as the paper, 20 pages of comments, and so many of which still shape my thinking. He was always this kind of indirect mentor. God, I spent a lot of time just hovering around him. Poor guy was so patient with me, so beautifully patient with me. And all through my days with him, I'd say something and he'd go, Daniel, that's just Maturana. That's just Maturana. Now, if you're confused, I was confused too. I didn't know what the sting Maturana was. I didn't know if it was an invocation. I didn't know if it was some kind of prayer. I didn't know what this thing was. Turns out he was talking about a Chilean biologist, systems thinker guy, Umberto Maturana. But he never told me that. He just would go, oh, that's just Maturana. That's just Maturana. But the effect of it was this kind of infiltration. He had this funny way of teaching like that. Same with, I learned Deleuze through Felipe, and that changed my life more dramatically than anything else, far and away. And he never just explained it to me. I never knew quite what he was saying, but I just stayed with it. And next thing I know, complete reorientation of my life. Complete reorientation. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have found these pleasures in ideas and texts were it not for Felipe. I would have left the academy. I don't know what would have happened. And I did end up leaving the academy, but not after my education with Felipe. I don't feel like I learned from the academy. I learned from Felipe. I didn't learn from UC Berkeley. I learned from Felipe. And he's in many ways the only teacher I've ever had, in that he really taught me. He really taught me to think, to be true, to be thorough, to have fun, and to realize life's just too short, man. Don't fight it. Don't be such a weenie, Daniel. After I stopped teaching around 2008, 2009 and hadn't been in touch in many years, and then I'm so grateful really to Matt George and Fred Dolan who started inviting me to these dinners, and I got to see Felipe and Eileen, and right before Felipe died, he was helping me with a book I'm working on. I wrote him with a question, and he wrote back a quick answer, and then he thought about it, and he wrote back this elaborate answer with all these allusions and things I should look at in books. And oh man, it's truly love that man. Truly love that man, and I'm so grateful to have known him and been included in his life.